Hi, my name is Sage, and this week I drew out some plans because I want to do a Valentine's Day themed type of project, but also gothic. And so you can see by my drawings, I want to do an anatomical heart, but with a poison dart frog, because that's fun. And to get started, I'm gonna need this glass thing that I found at the dollar store. Ooh, I thought it was so cute, so I picked it up. Not sponsored, again, it's just cute. And I'm also gonna need some other art supplies, such as tinfoil, wire, and clay. But first things first, I'm gonna remove the glass, and then I'm gonna use the wire to get the measurements to make sure everything is gonna fit. And since on this channel we do not measure by math, we measure by vibes, I then cut the wire before then placing the glass up top of it to make sure everything fits. Next, I take some tinfoil and scrunch it all up top of the wire, as this will be the heart. And I keep adding enough pieces until I think it's a good size, until I get to the bottom, and I add even more tinfoil, and I keep adding it until I believe that it's gonna be sturdy enough to hold everything up. And once it's good, it's now time to add the clay, and once I roll it and flatten it, I then squish it onto the future heart. Next, I continue to add clay onto the base and onto the heart part before then deciding I'm just gonna roll everything up in my hands to make it nice and smooth, and then bam, everything is good to go. And now, since everything is covered, I then embark on my journey to make it look more heart-shaped. And you can't have an anatomical heart shape without the little sprigs at the top, because I don't know medical terms. And so my sprig journey begins by just adding them in different places. I am looking at my anatomical heart drawings because I tried my best to replicate them. So hopefully it's right, because I get confused when I look at them. I don't know if you ever looked at them before, but there's so many sprigs, man. Next, I begin to texturize everything with the ball stylus. The ball stylus is my favorite thing to go in with. I just think it's fun. Next, I go in with the pointy stylus, and I make some indents. I do some outlines for some future veins, and I also carve out some future lines on the base. I then use the pointy stylus to make some indents in the sprigs because they're supposed to be tubes, before then going in with the ball stylus to make some more texture because I can't focus. I then decided that I hated this one part, so I ripped it off. Next, I add some little nibs to where I just ripped everything off, but then future me again decided that she hates it, so don't get attached. Now it's time to work on the frog. Not that I'm done the heart, but you know, I can't focus. And right here was a dire mistake. I should have kept him as small as possible, but no, my too much gene came out and I made him big, and you'll see how that pans out for me. I then don't even do the transition right, so this was just a precursor to everything that was about to happen. I then add some little eyes, and then I decide to check how big he is compared to the heart, and in my gut I knew he was way too big, but I decided to ignore that. Next, I thought it was a great idea to give his arms some wire to make him sturdier, and that wasn't a good idea. Don't do that. And here I thought I could do a cool transition by having the wire out and then putting some clay up top of it, but no, the transition didn't even turn out good either. This is a journey. I then decided, you know what will fix all of this? Brows. I'm gonna give him some brows and my troubles will be no more. There was in fact more troubles ahead. I then compare the size to the heart and to the frog again just to look at it, and I knew. Yet I still decided to ignore it and then give him a bigger head and then give him some arms. And as you can see here, once I place the glass encasing up top of him, the frog itself is just moving everywhere because he's too big. And so he has to lose his caboose. Oh no. And when I place the glass up top of it, he doesn't move around, but now his head's bothering me because it just looks too big. But again, I decide to work on his legs instead. And I also decide to give him some little placeholder feet as well. Next, I carve out his smile with my pointy stylus, and right now all that's going through my head is how ugly he is. I try and touch up his face a little bit with the ball stylus, and then I'm just like, you know what? No, let's work on something completely different. So now I'm using the ball stylus to carve out the base to make it look more interesting, before then using the big ball stylus and going over the heart to kind of smooth it out. Then I also add another piece because it just needs a touch more of love. Get it? I now decide it's time to face our problems head on by taking off the frog's face, which sounds absolutely crazy. And you would think second time's a charm, right? Like I've learned all my lessons. I have not. Foreshadowing. And so now we're gonna speed run through this frog with eyes, mouth, and legs. Bam! And once I put the glass encasing up top of him, he is still too chonky, but I decide to ignore that and work on the heart veins instead. And to do that, I do some little rollies and then I put them on the heart. And once I put the little spingly rollies on the heart, I then use the ball stylus to make sure everything is nice and secure. And then I do that one more time on the other side. Before then getting completely distracted by everything all at once, and then I use the ball stylus basically everywhere. And then I'm like, you know what? This frog needs some fingers. So then I roll some little spinglies for his fingers before then adding some spheres. And this is what his hand looks like on this side, and I do the exact same thing on the opposite side. Next, I start on his back feet, and I would show you the first one that I did, but it was basically all out of frame, like this. And this is the second one, and since I put a placeholder foot down for it, I end up slicing it in half before then adding another spingly to it, and then I add some spheres for his little toes. Or for the ends of his toes, I guess. And then I do some random touch-ups just because I get distracted. And then I decide that I don't like some of the sprigs, so I take the ends of them off, and then I end up forming the clay around my pointy stylus so it kind of looks like a tube already, and then I use my ball stylus to then meld everything together. I then continue to do this on random sprigs until I'm happy, and then it's time to move on to the frog again, and I cut his body off, his arms and his legs. I then rip the body off, and then I just completely rip him apart. I'm like, you know what? Third time's a charm, and it was. So now that I have the tinfoil down to the original ball, I then slap some clay on it, and then I begin to form the frog. And since this frog is so much smaller than the other frogs, it doesn't take very long to form, which is exciting for me because I'm working on like hour 9 at this point. I then attach his arms and his legs to this body, and I'm already liking it a lot better than the other two frogs. And once I put the glass encasing over top of it, I notice that his caboose is touching the glass, so I need to fix that. Also, if you notice that the glass is a lot dirtier than before, it's because off screen I was constantly putting the glass on and off to fix the random areas that my sculpture kept touching. And since I can't seem to keep a straight line of thought, I end up doing everything else. So I do some detailing on the frog, I give him some eyes, a mouth. And here's the moment of truth. Does everything fit in the glass encasing? And it does! Woo! I am so excited. You have no idea how excited I am at this point. But now it's time to rip off his face because I'm still not satisfied. I then use the big ball stylus and flatten everything out before then adding some more clay. And I know he's looking like a platypus right now, but we just have to trust the process. The more I flatten everything out, the more frog-like he becomes, and then I give him his smile back. Next, I give him some nostrils using my pointy stylus, and now he's completely done, and I can pop him into the oven to bake. Ooh, and this is what he looks like, completely baked. It's the next day, he's completely cooled, and now I can paint everything. And I start by painting the heart with a mixture of red and black paint, but since my mind doesn't stop, I also add in some yellow paint with the black and red. Why? I don't know, I just felt like it needed some yellow. I then cover the entire heart and base using those colors, and since I have texture on my sculpture, I go in and paint in all the little divot areas and the crevices just to make sure everything is nice and painted. Next, I go in with the yellow and red mixture and kind of just try and add some mid-tones to the heart to make it more dimensional. After that, I decide to work on the base and add some more red tones and kind of try and highlight the ridges. And now it's time to paint the frog. Ooh, I'm so excited. I'm gonna paint him blue, and I use the darkest blue that I have to paint his arms and his legs. I know it doesn't look like a dark dark blue, but once I layer it, it will be. Next, I decide to paint the top of him, and I go with a lighter blue, so I mix some white with the same blue that I used on his legs and arms. And once he's painted completely blue, I then take the black and paint in his eyes. And once that's all done, I then get to paint the spots on his back. Ooh. And I noticed there's a pattern on these tree frogs, so there's the bigger circles are in the middle, and then when they come out, they're tinier, so I kept that in mind. Then I decide I really want the veins to stick out, so I cover them with more red, before then filling in his smile with some dark blue. Then I give him some eye highlights with the white, and this is where my too much gene took over again, and I was like, what if this heart looked poison, so I added some purples and some pinks to it, before then adding even more red to the base on the ridges. Next, since I can't focus, I go back and just do random touch-ups, adding some more purple and some more reds in random places. I then decide to make the veins a little bit more pinky so you can really see them because the red just wasn't being red enough. And this is what it looks like. I would just like to say thank you so much for watching, and now here are the glamour shots.